Okie dokie. Let's hope this test is going all good. We can only hope. Let's just make sure I avoid typing. Okay, let's actually just check. I can probably check it myself. Yeah. Oh yeah, hell yeah, it's working. Let's just make sure I avoid typing. Turn the gain up. Maybe that sounds better, I don't know. If turning up the gain's good or not. Let's actually just check. Oh, there's going to be the double sound on that. That's probably not good. Oh, well, we'll see what happens when it comes through. Eric, if you're hearing me, you're a sick bloke. Yeah, dank memes. I'm totally ready to get into a dope-as stream of ELEAGUE. I'm also ready to yell when big plays come through. So, yeah. Oh, there it is. The fabled invite to the game. Oh, hang on. How do I get into spectate? I'm just... Wait. Okay, yeah, I'm in spectate. Ugh. That's weird. Glitchy client. Just mute that for a sec. Okay, I think this stream is well underway. That's what I like to see. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Okie dokie, so I think this stream is well underway. I think this is the actual well underway stream, in case people saw the ones before, but we'll see what happens. So today, we're going to be seeing Meltdown, which is ESM ELEAGUE Group A C2, I believe. I might mix this up, who knows, but I'm pretty sure they're C2 from Group A, coming up against Nobody Likes Yordles, which is Group B, seed number 1. So it should be an exciting matchup today. Both teams seem about similar in skill level. However, I am much more familiar with NOI. Right as their jungler... Ooh, they're doing a bit of shuffling around, we can see. Getting into positions. And they're trolling the chat with Reese. Whether that's in reaction to my voice, we don't know. Probably. But who knows? Oh, didn't even get a chance. Anyway, we're getting to champion select here, and we should be looking for a few interesting things. Now, from the stats, both teams seem to play a lot around their top laners, especially Nobody Likes Yordles. He has the highest damage per minute out of all Division 2 top laners. And in addition to that, the ADC, Lamb is Pro, has also been putting out a lot of damage overall. And they both... however... However, Meltdown seems to take a different approach to the game, where their jungler seems to be doing a lot for the team. So it should be interesting to see these styles clash. We should expect the bot lane of NLY to do pretty well. Meltdown, they don't play around their bot lane as much, but they are very formidable and should be able to hold their own. I think for these games, it's definitely how the top lane goes will decide whether or not NLY wins or Meltdown wins. And we should also expect, as we can see, we've seen Gangplank coming as a ban from Meltdown, trying to take away the carry top laners that TSM I'm a Cutie Pie has been playing throughout the entire tournament so far. Very smart bans coming out. Fizz ban, I think more a general ban. But unfortunately, I'm not as familiar with Meltdown, but all I know is that their top and jungler are their key carry points. Unlike a lot of other teams, which have a lot of mid lane focus as well as ADC focus, these two teams don't really play around their mid lane that much. Both prefer to play a supportive type role, with Karan playing a lot of Malzahar, a lot of Anivia, playing zone control, not necessarily hard carry damage. So Maokai ban coming out. Maokai has been reworked just recently. He's actually been seeing a bit of play in the support role. Now, we can see the Ivern first pick coming through. Ivern has been an absolutely massive pick this tournament. A lot of teams have been picking up, especially the top teams. Group A saw Nobody Likes Yordles, Jet, which is the seed 2 from Group B, as well as GLHL, all prioritising Ivern pretty heavily towards the end stages. And this plays into the ADC focus that a lot of teams have been running. However, Meltdown has not been playing that as much as other teams, but they may be switching things up going into this game. And we can see a pretty standard standard hover coming out of NLY with Lulu off the table. Karma is definitely the go-to next pick when it comes to a heal and shielding type support. And then there's a Jinx hover from Lamb Pro here, which really feeds into the ADC playstyle that NLY have come to be known for. But they don't decide to go for it in this part of the rotation. They instead decide to go for the Rengar, which is a bit different to what I would have expected coming out of NLY. And we hop into the next phase of the pick. Wait to see what goes on with these. Now, while they're picking, I actually have noticed that TSM I'm a Cutie Pie is last pick red side, so NOI definitely trying to play to their strengths here, trying to get a good matchup for their top laner, who has been playing a lot of carries, a lot of Yas, a lot of Darius, a lot of Gangplank as well. I think he's played a game or two of, which hence the ban. Clearly afraid of that. And we can see an Ashe coming out from the Meltdown side, along with Nami, very strong level 6. They should be looking to capitalize on the double ultimates at around that point to see if they can get a good kill in, perhaps early on, and start snowballing bottom lane, but we'll have to see how that plays out. And picking Ashe against a Rengar, it's a risky pick. Ashe, as we all know, doesn't have much in the way of escapes. And, so it could be troubling. However, with an Ivern, with a Nami, they definitely do provide enough survivability for this Ashe should the Rengar jump in. So it's not as bad as it possibly could have been. And we can see some troll picks coming out from NLY here. We can see the Urgot being hovered by NS Young and Rumble being hovered by Karan, locked in by Karan here. Now that Rumble is definitely going into the top lane, and we can see a Draven coming out from ADC. So we can see some go ham or go home champions coming out on the side of Nobody Likes Yordles. Rengar, Draven, very known for high risk, high reward gameplay. And as we can see from the response, we can see a Galio hover and a Ryze hover. So it looks like these teams will be looking, or at least Meltdown will be looking towards the late game with that one, with the Ryze pickup as well as the Ashe, both of which become very strong in the late game, with the Ivern and the Nami to support them, as well as Galio coming in with the saves with his ultimate and his taunt. We can definitely see a strong comp coming out from Meltdown, and we can see the Malzahar hover coming out from TSM I'm a Cutie Pie here. Nothing too crazy here. Karan has played it a couple of times throughout the tournament, and definitely fits into that that style that they're looking for. And it seems like NOI are putting together a pretty strong pick comp here, with the Rengar and the Malzahar looking to create some strong picks with some Draven damage coming out of nowhere and just, helping to delete any champion they want. But aside from that, I mean, if Ivern, Nami, Galio can help keep the two carries of Meltdown alive, it's going to be pretty tough for NOI to do anything this game. Now, we can see that for the time being, Karan has actually selected Exhaust for his mid laner. Against a Ryze, not sure how effective that is. Ryze puts out a lot of damage over a long period of time, so Exhaust is maybe not the best choice, but, we'll have to see how it pans out. And then we can also see Ignite coming out from the Karma, from NOI support here, looking to go aggressive this lane phase, as is expected of any Draven lane. Whereas the Nami on the side of Meltdown has taken Exhaust, which is a very clear good choice for any support to take against a Draven, especially an Ashe Nami. I feel like they have a bit of a weaker early game than the Draven Karma lane, and so the Exhaust will help them get through that. And up in the top lane, we just see some TPs, some flashes coming out. There's nothing too crazy about that, and the junglers, as always, taking flash and smite. So we can see nothing too crazy coming out there in terms of the summoner spells. From the looks of it, it definitely looks like NOI have drafted a very strong early game composition. However, they do have a bit of scaling in terms of that rumble there. And I feel like if TSM PewDiePie is unable to get ahead effectively, far enough in the early game, then I feel like NOI will really struggle to get things done in the late game. So as we move past 30 minutes, I feel like it'll be difficult for NOI to actually pull off some of their plays, and depending on the coordination and the vision that Meltdown are able to put down, I'd hazard to say that NOI definitely need to make things happen in this early game. So we'll be looking towards that to decide how this game goes. Whereas Meltdown, they're looking to play pretty safe, pretty passive. Perhaps Ivern going in with some invades to try and hold up the Rengar. Everyone knows Rengar is incredibly strong, level 6. However, his clear and his gank ability are relatively weak early on in the game. So if Ivern can get in, get a few invades, maybe triple buff the Rengar, then that could definitely hold him up and cause a lot of trouble for NLY here. So in the mid lane, we expect things to be a pretty solid farm fest. Ryze and Malzahar both able to clear waves incredibly quickly with not a lot of effort, not a lot of mana, and they also have range. So we shouldn't expect too much coming out of the mid lane there. Both of them should basically be looking to farm up and get items in order to create plays later on. In the top lane, we've got Rumble versus Galio. Unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with Galio since he's been reworked. But I believe that, in the early game, Rumble should be able to bully out the Galio, as Galio is melee, and Rumble definitely has a lot of pressure against melee matchups, but I'm not sure of Galio's early game strength. I don't think it's necessarily that strong from what I've experienced. I feel like his mid game is definitely a lot stronger than his early game, but we'll have to see how the game pans out. And as we're just waiting for this spectator delay so we can actually get into the game and see if any of these game plans start from level 1, or whether both teams just decide to play it a bit safe in the early game. We're moving into a best of 3 here. Both teams definitely looking to pick up that game 1 win in order to help solidify their spot in this series, and maybe try and, cause the other team to tilt. It can be difficult to come back in a best of 3 if you lose game 1, because it's just one more game and you're out. However, this should be pretty competitive. and now we are loading into the game. We are playing on patch 7.9, which I believe is the mid-season patch, the big one that brought along a lot of the tank changes with the changes to Zac, Sejuani, and Maokai. Bit interesting that we didn't see any Sejuani bans coming out, considering she is very strong on this patch. I think she was hotfixed, so not as oppressive as when the patch first came out, but still nonetheless a very strong champion. But Maokai being the only new rework to actually receive a ban in this game, it is a bit interesting. But Zac being left open is no surprise. He has been left in a very weak spot after this round of changes, and nothing too special there. And the changes also come with the new Rift Herald, which is very strong for pushing champions. So I feel NLY will probably want to prioritize this quite a bit if they want to get ahead in the early game. Perhaps put a lot of pressure in top and mid, and then perhaps rotate round and grab it. Now, it is very easy to take down, even solo, and I feel like a Rengar, once he's completed his jungle item, perhaps should be able to take that down solo, but I feel like they'll try and pull the Rumble down as well. So I feel like the game plan for NOI is probably definitely to look for a bot lane advantage. I feel like the Rumble can definitely just farm up through this lane phase. I don't think Galio will pose too much of a threat. So, and the mid lane just being more of a farm matchup, it'll definitely be a lot of Rengar farming in the early game, and then a lot of defensive or offensive warding, coming out of the Draven Karma, them trying to press an advantage, try and maybe perhaps get a tower early on in the game while Ashe is still trying to scale up with some items. And we are finally getting into the game. Interesting. I hope it hasn't frozen. That would not be fun. We'll just leave it. Let's see. It's probably just trying to load, really. There we go. And we can get in. What? A pause coming out right in the beginning. Honestly, not much of a surprise. NOI have been doing a lot of pausing this tournament. They always seem to like moving their players over from Wi-Fi to hotspots. I don't know why they don't just start on the hotspot. It's really a question that they should be asking themselves, why they hold up everyone. But you know what? I'll let them do them. I mean, they're the ones that made it out of the group and not my team, so they're obviously doing something right, and maybe the pausing is a part of it. Wow, that's interesting. Coming out of the chat here, this is for Term. Term is one of the teams that NOI had in their group. So, oh wait, it was actually an MLT, a Meltdown pause, not actually an NOI pause. So I don't know what I was talking about there, just completely disregard that. Unless NOI pause, then just bring it all back. Okie dokie, so we can see the Ashe reconnecting back in, so we should expect the pause to end reasonably soon. Oh, the Bob Skid. Oh, Arcade Retro. Oh, they're doing it. They're doing it for me. They're playing for me. Look, all we can say is that all I can hope for at this point is that NOI clean sweep this whole playoffs. Then we can say, well, I mean, we lost to them, but like we could have beaten all these other dudes and nabbed second. But enough about me. More onto these players. Oh, we get some hello YouTubes in the chat. I like that one. That's a nice one. If we see a big play, we'll definitely I don't know where I was going with that one. But anyway, the teams are both coming out of the base right now. Let's see if we look at the start. Ooh, level 7 Draven. What a baller. Absolute Tyler 1 right here. That's the reformed Tyler 1, not the unreformed toxic Tyler 1, of course. Of course. We only promote positivity on this stream. So we can see both junglers deciding to start with Talisman, going for the more mana regen. Not sure why you'd get that on Rengar, but hey, he's more of a jungle main than me, so I won't really question it all that much. Rise coming out with the Sapphire Crystal to start, obviously trying to get his tier as quickly as possible, as you want to do with Rise. And we can see a level 1 trade coming out of these top laners. We can see Deathfire Touch coming out from the Rumble here. Now this is potentially pretty worrying. Possibly sums, maybe not, maybe not. The safety of the tower keeps Galio alive for the rest of the day. So minions coming in, things might get a little spicy. So we can see both supports ran with Spell Thieves this game, and both marksmen decided to go for a Doran's Blade start. Now I've known some people who think Doran's Shield is a decent start on some champions. In this instance, I'd probably hazard to say that Ashe probably could have benefited from a Doran's Shield start. And then in addition to that, there are also some longsword starters, which is something that I feel like a Draven could pull off pretty well, since a lot of his items do build out of longswords. And we can see just the bot laners leashing. So Ivern going for a classic Ivern start, setting up his blue buff and his wolves and heading over to the enemy red buff. Now we'll have to see how the Rengar responds to this one, to see if he recognises the classic Ivern start, or whether he is triple buffed as the Ivern is trying to do. Now I can see Rengar is definitely he's just pulling off a full blue side clear here, and oh, he's actually decided to skip the wolves, and he's actually heading over to his red buff. Oh, that's not good. Okay, there we go. We're back in business. So we can see Rengar completely duped by the Ivern here. He's definitely going to be losing all of his buffs. Rengar with only blue buff. That's pretty worrying for Rengar's early game clear, especially since he won't have the health regen that comes with a red buff. And we can see down in the bot lane, a CS advantage already possibly starting to spring up for the Draven Karma lane. But we'll have to see how the rest of this wave pans out to see if we can say that for certain. So Ivern just doing a cheeky full clear, you know, he's heading around for somewhere. Back in the top lane, both top laners obviously trading quite heavily. But the Galio shield helps prevent some of the harass from the level 3 advantage that the Rumble was able to accrue. We can see just a lot of farm happening in this early game. Top lane looking pretty spicy, but other than that, it's just a whole lot of farming. And another pause comes in. Question is, oh, there it is. We can see in the chat right there, that is an NLY pause. So if we just remember back to everything I said before and just imagine it was said now, and it's now relevant. So you see, look, it's all there. ADC lagging, he's going to his hotspot. Oh, Optus, that's who I'm with. We can't diss Optus here. I'm happy with the service Optus provides. Also, Optus, please sponsor ESM. Give them some money, and in return, they will say Optus is cool. Maybe not. Anyway, who knows? Ah, there we go. Handy little tip. I don't have to hold tab anymore. I can just press one button and the scoreboard sits there for eternity. Oh, and I can even hide that. That's perfect. Perfect. This is old spectator style, not the new spectator style. So, you know, I personally prefer this style, having the scoreboard up there all the time. But yeah, so I think the ADC did just reconnect there, so we should expect the pause to end sometime relatively soon. Now we can see that across the map, levels are looking reasonably even between all players. So we can see that both mid laners level 3, both top laners level 3, same with the junglers, and then both the bot laners are level 2. So we should be seeing some good stuff come out soon. And we can see actually down in the bottom lane, Draven has got a 3 CS lead by the time I believe it's the third wave has come around, third or fourth. And yeah, so it looks pretty promising. Bot lane playing out exactly as we expected. Draven been able to get an advantage so far. It's a very small one, but it's I believe it's the beginning. It's the beginning of a trend that we should see coming out of the bot lane this game. We can see a little bit of harass coming out from Karan in the mid lane. However, neither champion really has too much kill pressure on another, so it's really just small trades for a bit of damage, bit of harass. Nothing special. And we can see Ivern coming in for a cheeky gank. Oh, and the root does actually land on the Draven. And we can see the flash coming out of Ivern here. But unfortunately, nothing was able to happen from it. So it's really just a traded flash. Bot lane, Draven used his flash as well. So that's potential. That's a really good positive for the side of Meltdown here. And we can see top lane, potentially a kill coming out. And ooh, a nice play out of TSM. I'm a Cutie Pie nets him the first blood. Using flash perfectly there, minion aggro doing a lot of damage as it does in the early game. So we can see the beginning of a good top lane advantage for NLY, which is their win condition this game. And now we can see actually that Ivern gank, despite him using his flash, he was able to get the Draven flash, which is actually really good. And we can see a flash coming out of mid. And the missed bowler strike being able to prevent anything more from happening. And we can see Draven being very aggressive despite not having his flash. And this is potentially a kill coming out onto the Draven. And ooh, the flash from earlier unable to be used due to the Ivern gank from before. And we can see a return kill coming out from the Karma on NLY. And this could potentially be a double kill for the support here, but they both back off and both are alive. But we can see the Ivern is actually edging his way down as a trade happens in the mid lane. And it'll be interesting to see what happens down in that bot lane. We can see Gloom Under Night going very low from this one, but I believe it's all settled at this point. But we can definitely see a bit of trouble for NLY here. You know, jungler having a bit of a rough start, only having one buff. Bot lane actually losing a kill shortly after a gank from the jungler. And in that fight, actually, heal was used by Draven. So, you know, this is potentially spelling bad signs for the bot lane of NLY here, which is really goes against the whole idea of the Draven Karma lane. If the Ashe and Nami get ahead, it's going to be really hard for Draven to be effective unless he's able to cash in at some point. Now we can see in the mid lane, Malzahar has been able to get a small advantage, 7-6-5-4 CS lead, almost completely closed by Ryze in just one wave. However, it is shoving into the Malzahar's tower, so he should be able to get that lead once more. And we can see, a gank coming in from the Ivern, being able to help out the top lane, and this could potentially spell disaster for the Rumble here, but he's able to actually get a return kill onto the Galio. Amazing play, level 6 advantage really showing up. And we can see level 6 coming out of Quran here, and this could potentially be an ultimate, and it is. And the Karma Roam coming in, potentially getting a kill onto the Ryze here. And yes, it is NLY able to grab another kill. So this is looking really good for NLY at the moment. You know, they did lose that kill. They did lose that Draven earlier on, but they've been able to really come back here. And advantages in both solo lanes is really looking good for NLY this game. So we can see that a Banshee's Veil is coming out of the Malzahar first item here. Null Magic Mantle, Amplifying Tome, clear indicators of what is to come. And we can see bot lane doing a bit more trading here. We can see both ADCs here have a Vamp Scepter, so it really is essentially quite even for this Draven, except perhaps an experience disadvantage. And the CS has actually become quite even across those AD carries, and as well as in the top lane. But mid lane, we can see a 10 CS lead coming out of the Malzahar here, definitely helped out by that solo kill. Now we can see that NLY from those kills alone has actually managed to get almost a 1.5k gold lead in the early game. And they'll definitely be looking to try to extend this. And we can see the Ryze and Ivern coming in with ultimate, and that could be potentially really bad for the NLY bot lane here. Daisy coming in, Root misses, and we can see Draven going down once more. And we can see a battle happening in the top lane. Galio unable to do any damage, while TSM Occupy Rumble just comes in big time. The ultimate comes out, Equalizer not doing much, put in necessarily the wrong position, but it doesn't matter in the end. Rockets and Flames are too strong. Equalizer not even needed for that tower dive solo kill. We can see Meltdown pushing the NLY bottom lane in just a little bit, but they're able to successfully defend the tower there. And it's not looking good for Meltdown here. They're just losing even more gold. It now is a 1.5 gold lead as opposed to just below what it was before. And we can see that TSM Cutie really showing up and showing us why he is definitely one of the best top laners throughout the entire tournament. And you can see he's trying to grow that CS lead. It's now 12 at this point, and he's got 3 kills up his sleeve, going for that Liandry's Torment first item, it appears, or perhaps even a Rylai's, but it is unlikely. And we can see bot lane just trying to grab some CS here. Draven really not being able to luck out this game. He's losing a lot of adoration stacks, which really limits Draven's, which really limits his effectiveness as a carry. And we can see them sort of roaming up. Looks like they're going to go for the Ocean Drake right now. And Ivan's coming out of base. Looks like he's heading towards his top side, so that should be a free Drake for NLY here. Yep, Rengar rather comes in to help out with this one, and there's only a Nami, but we can see a collapse coming out. The teleport coming out of the Galio into the river, and we can see a fight breaking out. Meltdown looking to collapse under this Drake and have a fight, but Rumble is also coming down as well, so this could potentially be really bad for Meltdown here, depending on how the rest of it goes. We can see NOI able to take the dragon, and it's really just teleports traded out of the top lane is really here. Ashe ult was actually used in that fight, whereas and as well as Whirling Death coming out of Draven somewhere in that fight. And it looks like the Equalizer comes out and the suppression from the Malzahar, and they get a quick kill onto the Rise there. No counterplay to that one yet. No QSS on the side of Meltdown here. Definitely will be a huge pickup for that side, with a lot of with the insane amount of pick potential and pressure that NOI are carrying right now. And you can see Meltdown pinging the Rift Herald here. I'm not sure if they're actually going to go ham and go to try and kill it, or whether they're just trying to check if NOI are trying to sneak it. We can see Draven starting to go aggressive. He's managed to get a 10 CS lead against this Ashe. Very impressive. And we can see, yep, definitely NOI bot lane, even though they're playing from behind with a kill disadvantage, they're still just coming back and showing why they can show a lot of pressure. As Draven Karma, despite being down, is still a Draven Karma lane, which applies a lot of pressure, and it doesn't help that Nami has been absent from the lane for quite a while. And they're just trying to get some chip damage down onto the tower here, and we can see just Draven being Draven, doing some Draven things. And we can see the Ashe ult coming out here, but how successful is this fight going to be? The bubble lands onto the Draven. This could spell disaster for the bottom lane, but the Ignite comes out onto the Ashe. It's doing a lot of damage, but it's over now, and this is getting really close, but it looks like, the flash forward, being able to get the kill onto the Draven, and that's really bad for NLY. We could potentially see another kill coming out, but maybe not. The Ashe Flurry of Arrows, just barely misses the Karma there for that securing final kill. Now we can see top lane tower is getting absolutely wailed on by Rumble here. It's at a quarter of its HP. Meanwhile, top tower is almost untouched. And we can see how oppressive TSM Cutie is as a laner here. And he's just going to go in, he's going to clear that blue orb, but there's a Rise ult coming in. This is potentially a big collapse onto the top lane, but we can see if we see the flash coming out of TSM Cutie here, and the follow-up flash from the Rise coming through as well. And we can see just a huge collapse from Meltdown, sending 4 people into the top lane, but NOI are also coming in with 2 people of their own trying to respond, but they're unable to get anything, and that's a kill on a TSM Cutie. Definitely a good move from Meltdown. No pressure anywhere else on the map. They're able to just go up, they're able to kill TSM Cutie, and perhaps dampen his oppressiveness, because he has been doing a lot this game. We can see them just trying to clear out mid-tower, perhaps trying to get a bit of damage down onto it, but Rise is returning to lane, and he can clear that wave incredibly quickly, so it's unlikely that much is going to happen in the mid. We can see that NLY perhaps not going for the gank as I thought, but they are just getting some deep vision down, so they will know if Ivern decides to walk bottom side, and they may decide to collapse on this Ashe down here, but there is a pink ward able to spot him out. And it looks like they aren't going to be able to go in for anything. Ashe able to get out in time. And everything just seems to be relaxing out right now. Lane is returning to the lanes. Jungle is returning to the jungle. And it seems all a bit quiet at the moment. Just Farm, farm, farm. Top lane having a bit of a trade once more, just when you thought it was going to be a little bit Clown Fiesta, not Clown Fiesta, Clown Siesta, I like to say, or a bit of a snooze fest. Resident Sleeper coming out. TSM Occupy decides to go in and actually change that one up by trying to get a bit of damage down, but Galio is not going to have a bar of it. Mid lane is just farm, 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 big time. Karan actually has a 15 CS lead, which is pretty big. However, that pales in comparison to the CS difference that TSM Occupy has managed to accrue of about 25, which it's really and we can see Ivern coming in for a gank here. Nothing is able to happen. The gap close is just not enough out of the side of Meltdown here, unable to make anything happen. And we can see in the jungle that Rengar has has finished a Tracker's Knife, so it looks like he's going for that more supportive vision-oriented game. And yeah, so you know we'll see a bit more supportive playstyle coming out of the Rengar here. Could have potentially been replaced by a Nunu, which I would have preferred. It definitely can be a strong matchup into. It can be a decent matchup into Ivern, as well as being basically like Ivern light. So if they did want to play those ADC centric comps, ADC top lane carry centric comps that they were playing beforehand, Nunu definitely would have fit in there. But hey, they didn't pick Nunu, so it's okay. And then on the side of Ivern here, we know that Iverns don't go for a jungle item, and in this, he decided to actually rush straight for an Athene's Unholy Grail, and has left Redemption for somewhere later in his build, which I assume is now. We can see a little battle coming out, Daisy coming out, bit of defense there for the Ivern. We can see both mid laners collapsing in for a bit of a fight. We can actually see TSM Occupy coming in on the backside, but he gets bubbled out. It's unable to do anything, and we can see the Rengar jumping in with his ultimate. Equalizer comes down, completely cutting off Galio's escape here. And there are almost more than just one kill, but there's actually no kills. Not one kill, as I thought. Galio able to make it out just in time, and he's running that Commando Galio skin. The nightmare of all people who have tried to access Riot Shop in the old client, that is. They've removed it from this one. Thank the Lord. Thank heaven. We can see mid tower actually going really low here, and a lot of damage over time coming out of these mid laners. We can see a lot of damage over time. We can see Rumble with his Flame Spitter. Both of them are running Deathfire Touch, I believe, which synergizes very well with dot champions. And they're just pushing out the wave. Like these two NLY solo laners are able to clear waves incredibly quickly. And we can just see that in the bottom lane, Draven has actually managed to get a 20 CS lead, and he actually rushed a Death's Dance this game. Very surprising. We know that a lot of itemization changes coming through in patch 7.9. AD carries don't know what is the best at the moment, so a lot of them are experimenting. And we definitely see an experimental build coming out of the Draven here. He does not want to die anymore. He has 3 of his team's 4 deaths. He definitely does not want to die many more times. We can see just a bit of farm going on. We can see there's a 35 to 40 CS lead in the top lane. Absolutely demolishing. TSM Occupy really living up to the expectations he set in the group stage. And we can also see in the bottom lane, that CS lead, it doesn't quite make up the difference in kills that the Ashe has. Death's Dance versus a Blade of the Ruined King, I'd definitely say Blade of the Ruined King is a stronger item to have, at least first item anyway. But Draven's early game pressure just sort of makes up for the item difference, and I believe that Draven Karma are still in the lead at this point in time. We can see Nami's bubbles have been actually pretty on point. There are a few misses like that one there, but for the most part, it's been pretty clutch this game. So it's been really, really good at disengaging potential fights that Meltdown could have lost. So that's really impressive play coming out. We can see there's actually a 2-level advantage in the top lane. Absolutely disgusting. 1 level advantage in the mid lane for NLY. And in the bottom lane, we can see a 1-level advantage for the Draven as well. So NLY are really just getting a leg up all over the map, it seems, at this point, making it really hard for Meltdown to come back into this game. At this point, NLY are just looking to close out the game. Meltdown just looking to sort of close out what it already is a pretty one-sided match at the moment. And we can see Rengar actually coming in for a top lane gank. He jumps in with the ultimate, but he decides not to do anything with it other than hit the tower. And it looks like they just want to get this tower down. That's the first tower goal going over to NLY, increasing the lead that they already have. And it's really looking dire for Meltdown here. Malzahar pushing in mid lane even more. That mid lane tower is going to go down at any point. We can see the Galliard coming in for a potential play. But Ivan coming in as well. But Malzahar doing the look away ult. And we can see a big fight coming out of here. We can see Karan actually goes down. Meltdown getting the leg up at the beginning of this fight. And we can see Draven, no mana here. You have no mana, Draven. And we can see Ashe flashing forward, pulling a Wild Turtle here, actually able to kill the Draven while Daisy is getting some mad knockups in the backline. And Meltdown actually able to take an advantageous fight in this game, which looks really good and bodes well for the competitiveness of this series. You can see they're just trying to whale down mid lane, but Equalize will come out to try and just prevent that push from happening, and it is successful in its aim. So now both teams will probably look to reset at this point and then go ham at it at another point. So we can see that Ashe is actually doing pretty well against this Draven, which it was surprising considering the start of this game. But we can see TSM Armor Cutie Pie going for the 1v2, but the Ryze ult coming out to take him away. They knew what was going on, and we can see the flash forward from the Rumble followed by the flash from the Ryze reciprocating. But nothing happens. It's just traded flashes and lost ultimates. We can see a siege coming out of NLY here, seeing what they can do, perhaps getting another tower to increase their lead. And they do actually manage to get it. Draven just farming in the bottom lane, getting those adoration stacks ready to finally cash in at some point in this game. And when it does, it will be glorious. We can see Rumble recalling, Rengar recalling, lots of recalls coming out from NLY, just trying to reset, spend some of that gold that they've earned, and trying to reset for the next fight, which should potentially be either Baron or it'll be bottom lane tower. You can actually see a ping coming out from bottom lane tower from NLY onto the Ashe or the bottom lane tower. So it definitely looks like that's going to be where they're redirecting their focus at this point. But NLY don't have any Baron vision, so if they do decide to go bot, there could potentially be a sneak coming out from Meltdown, which could catch them off guard. But at this point, we don't know what the teams are planning. All we can do is speculate at this point. See some hook shots coming out of the Ashe here, trying to get a bit of vision, trying to find out where the Rengar is, and I believe he is spotted out. But it looks like NLY are definitely committing to getting this bottom tower. Definitely solid plan, just trying to finish off all the outer towers. Meanwhile, Ryze is in the mid lane trying to farm, but we can see Rumble's coming out to try and perhaps return, and Nami ult comes out to try and dissuade them from this fight. So does the Galio ult. Ashe ult coming out as well. Rengar going really low. Taunt coming out. Galio getting a huge two-man taunt. Draven getting pretty low, but Draven's actually able to get a kill onto the Ashe. Finally able to cash in after 21 minutes. And it looks like a 1-for-1 at this point. Ryze finally coming in. We'll have to see whether Meltdown are able to defend this tower or not. And it looks like Galio's going in, but he's just getting blown down by the range that NOI has. And it looks like NOI are pinging to back away from this one, perhaps get the Drake that's coming up. It is an Infernal, one that both teams will definitely be looking to get, and will definitely benefit NOI a ton with their Deathfire Touch and their damage over time spells, working really well with Infernal on that one. And we can see the Drake's at about half HP. Ivern's still waiting on the side. He could potentially go in for a steal here. Malzahar doing their best to keep him away, and he does successfully keep him away, and NOI are able to get the third dragon of the game. And it wasn't actually an Infernal, it was a Mountain. Sorry for that misinformation there, but nonetheless, NOI being in a very commanding position of this game so far, will probably be very happy with a Mountain Drake. It'll be able to help them take down those inner towers and perhaps finish off that bottom tower that they weren't able to get previously. And in addition to that, they will be doing a lot of damage to that Baron with their damage over time. So if they do decide to get it, they will completely melt it. And it looks like Meltdown here trying to get their first tower of the game, but Draven ult comes in. We've got Karma perhaps using some of her Qs, and successfully defended by NOI here. So Meltdown unable to get a lot done. They were able to defend their bot lane tower, but they weren't able to get one in return when they had an opportunity. And we can see that there's a huge collapse coming out from NLY. They're going 5-man bottom, and we'll have to see whether Meltdown can react to this as a unit and perhaps able to defend off this push, but it seems pretty unlikely at this point, especially with Nami going back. So it is definitely a 4v5 fight for this. And that is just a free tower going over to NLY here, bringing it up to 3-0 in towers and having an over 5k gold lead. So NLY looking very commanding at this point in the game. It looks like they're trying to rotate mid. Ryze definitely spots it out, backs off. He doesn't want to get caught out, of course. Kills are even, which could lead them to believe that they are even, but make no mistake, NLY are definitely in the driver's seat of this one. And we can see Nami ult coming out for a bit of disengage here as the bottom lane from NLY tries to go in with Rumble on the backside. And it looks like they're just going to concede and go for the mid tower. So Rengar ult was actually used along with Nami ult. Ashe ult coming out onto the Rumble, but no follow-up, and Nami bubble misses. So Meltdown really unable to do anything at this for the time being. Daisy's out. A lot of ults used from the side of Meltdown, and not really any at all used from the side of NLY. So NLY could perhaps use a Rumble ultimate along with pressure from the Malzahar ultimate to just get this tower with almost no contention. And we can see Taunt coming out onto the Malzahar. Ryze on the backline. Equalizer comes out, absolutely obliterating Nami here. And the damage from NLY is just too much for Meltdown to handle. And we can see a 1-for-0 trade in favor of NLY coming out here as they back off from the tower. The defense from Meltdown is just too good. However, they did lose one of their champions. And that gold lead increases to 5.5 memeing K right here. And we can see Rengar just taking a red buff casually, using his smite on it, as of course he can. Doesn't need it for champions, doesn't need it for Baron, at least not at this point. And we can see just basically just the teams just resetting a bit, slowing down the pace of the game just a tad. We can see Ashe getting a red buff here. That'll help her in the next fight to come, if it is within that buff window, of course. And we can see just a lot of boring play, we'll say, coming out at this point in the game. Just teams trying to farm up, reset, get some items, moving to the next fight. Now, we do see that the rod out of Ryze has, in fact, been fully stacked, as well as the tier is well on its way. 600 out of 750 stacks. We'll be looking to see what that Ryze can do once he does complete his Archangel staff. And yeah, we'll have to see what comes out of the other members. Malzahar here, he didn't actually go for the Banshee's Veil. He did keep that Null Magic Mantle just in his inventory, and decided to instead go for the standard Morellonomicon into Rylai's build that we do see out of a lot of Malzahars here in the mid lane. We can see Draven, instead of going for traditional Bloodthirster build, did decide that Death Stance was going to replace that, and he has gone straight for an Infinity Edge after that, so we should be looking to see him pick up a Zeal item at this point in the game. On the side of it, Meltdown, we can actually see Nami picked up a Ruby Sightstone. Interesting pickup, not very common for Ruby Sightstone to come out at this point in the game. We can see Rengar coming with an ultimate, perhaps trying to make a fight, perhaps trying to just ward the Meltdown team off this tower so they can take it, and it looks pretty ineffective. The wave is just a little too small for NOI to capitalize on that. And we can see TSM Armor Cutie Pie actually looking like he's being caught out here. He might drop the equalizer, but he might just go down way too quickly for it. He is able to get it off, and he does actually die to the Galio. Redemption comes in from Ivern, providing massive heals, and Ryze looks like he's going to be teleporting into the backline. And we can see a lot of stuff happening here. The taunt coming out onto the Galio, but Draven just does too much damage, and that's a kill. And we can see Ryze going down on the backline as well. So even when Meltdown get the jump onto NOI here, NOI can just turn it around because of their massive advantage, and there's nothing Meltdown can do about it. At this point, Meltdown are just kind of looking for a miracle Baron Steel to help them stall out the game so that they can get some items and perhaps come back into it. But I don't know if that's going to be even possible, especially if NOI just decides to forego the Baron and just keep knocking down towers by themselves. That being said, though, Meltdown have actually done a pretty good job of defending the towers. They lose kills, but they don't lose objectives, and really in the grand scheme of things, that's definitely a better thing for them, especially because they're playing from behind at this point in the game. And we can see Drake coming back up. I'm not going to say it's an Infernal. It is actually a Mountain Drake, so NLY are actually going to be able to freely pick up another Mountain Drake, and that's going to do wonders for them in the objective game. We can see just this dragon coming around. There's no pressure from any of the Meltdown members here. And yeah, we can see just a bit of clearing coming out in the mid lane from the side of Meltdown, just trying to keep the waves pushing, we can see. We can see Nami using her spooky ghost, trying to get a feel for where the enemy is. All they know is that there's people down the mid lane. And we can see a lot of grouping coming out from grouping in the top side coming out from Meltdown. They might perhaps just be setting up for a Baron fight, perhaps. NLY definitely would seem that Baron is the next objective, considering they have 2 Mountain Drakes and have been unsuccessful in taking any towers for a little while now. Now we should expect some of the teleport members, Galio in particular, to be going down into the bottom lane, seeing if he can get a push down while the Baron dance happens. But as of yet, nothing of the sort has occurred. And we can see lots of pinks coming out. NOI obviously have some good wards going down into the jungle of Meltdown. They know the blue buff's gone, perhaps. Well, they know that there was some stuff happening in blue buff, and the ward goes down on it just to confirm their suspicions that blue buff was being done. So we can see NOI have a really good position on the Baron, perhaps trying to actually bait it out by sitting in that bush. But we don't actually know what the plan is at the moment, and we can see not really an awful lot of anything happening, just a little bit of ambient gold, which only really works out in the favour of Meltdown here, who do want to scale into that late game. And we can see that Ashe does have a QSS, so if we see a Malzahar roll, or perhaps a Snare, a Root coming out with the Bowler Strike from Rengar, that could be QSS, and Ashe could get away scot-free. And the ultimate comes out, it actually lands onto the Karma. Galio coming in with his ultimate, but nothing happens, it's just too far away, there's no follow-up. Really, it's just the story of the game coming out of here for Meltdown. You know, someone gets a good pick, whether it be a Nami bubble, an Ashe ultimate, a Galio taunt, and there's just no follow-up from the rest of the team. Their gap closing ability is next to none. They only really have the Galio dash along with the root coming out of the Ivern here, and honestly, both of those times, it's just nothing's been able to happen, and we can see that TSM Cutie Rumble coming in, teleporting in on the backline for this Baron fight here, and the Nami ult comes out, and we can see Ivern going in, but this Equalizer is absolutely brilliant. It has done a lot of damage to the team of Meltdown here, and we can see NOI just chasing. Malzahar comes out onto the rise, Draven perhaps able to get some stuff done, Rengar using his flash effectively to get onto the Ivern, and bam, that is a lot of kills. That is a 4 for 0 coming out of NLY, and they should just look to push down mid lane and get perhaps an inhibitor, or perhaps even the game. It should be inhibitor at least, potentially grabbing that inhibitor, then going to the Baron, and Meltdown pinging the Baron. They know what's going on. They know how this next couple of minutes is going to pan out. And just look at that damage. Double Mountain Drake doing an absolute ton for NLY here. They're able to just destroy these objectives, and it looks like they've decided to back out. They know that ending the game's a bit of a stretch at this point, and they are pinging the Baron. Looks like they will be turning back to get a classic play. You win a fight, you push down mid, and then you return and go to Baron. Taking that Blast Cone, definitely good for NLY here. Meltdown unable to use that in any potential runaways or escapes, and they're just starting it straight away. Meltdown are doing their best to try and run out there now, but these double mountains are just melting this Baron, and look at it go down. Meltdown aren't even able to get close to this one. NLY definitely looking in a very commanding position, able to close this game out reasonably soon, you'd imagine, with TSM Cutie Pie perhaps going into the top lane, although his teleport is down at this point in time. But it looks like they're doing a 2-3. Interesting technique here. A bit of a split going out. ADC and top laner looking to head towards bottom lane. But as I say that, Draven starts walking into the jungle, just perhaps taking a grump, just getting a little bit of farm. And then they might group up mid. Who knows? So it looks like they might perhaps be trying to get a pick. And NLY just playing this early game perfectly. There's really nothing that Meltdown can do. Like, it's past 30 minutes, and I may have said that Meltdown had this game after 30 minutes, but they've just fallen way too far behind on this one. They're down 13k gold. That is absolutely massive. At this point, that's almost a full item ahead each player is from NLY. And we can see, just look at the speed with which they can demolish those towers. There's nothing Meltdown can do to defend them. And Rengar coming in with the ultimate. Namiel comes out in reply to try and ward off the Rengar, but it really isn't just going to do anything in the grand scheme of things. With these Baron-empowered minions coming in, able to wail down on the tower. TSM Armor Cutie Pie's got so much pressure with his rockets, and there's just Meltdown just doing their best to clear the waves here. They've got Ryze in the mid lane trying to deal with the super minions. NLY realizing not much is going to happen, they're just sort of easing off a little bit, and there's a flash ult from Galio, but no follow-up. This game has just been no follow-up, and redemption, double redemption, no, single redemption coming out from the side of Meltdown, and really nothing happens here. No one goes down. There's just a lot of used ultimates, a lot of used items, and NLY, since that happened, can just come in and push this tower. Look at it destroy. There's absolutely nothing Meltdown can do about this. It just goes. The objectives just go down so quickly, and I feel like this is looking like it's going to be the end of the game here at this point. However, NLY decide maybe that's not the best idea, and they just want to choke the life out of Meltdown here. They don't want to give them any opportunity to get back in. So it looks like they're turning around, trying to grab that fifth Drake of the game, an Ocean Drake, a second one. No Infernals this game, but NLY are pretty upset about that. However, Meltdown probably pretty thankful for it, but unfortunately, it doesn't matter when you're down 5 dragons what they are. So they're going to use their Baron power to recall to get back to base very quickly, and they're probably just going to push in topside. You can actually see a few pings coming out of the members of NLY. They definitely know what needs to happen. It's just a 5-man push top, and Meltdown won't be able to do anything about it with 2 waves of supers just pushing into their base. There's going to be nothing Meltdown are going to be able to do about it, and Rumble just solo by himself in this jungle here. There could potentially be a collapse from Meltdown if they knew, but their vision just isn't strong enough. They don't know where the members of NLY are at the moment. And it looks like there's a bit of some deep vision coming down from the Rengar and Karma, both going into the blue side jungle, and it looks like just a free buff for the Rengar here, perhaps giving over to the Karma, but he might just take it for himself or perhaps gift it over to the Malzahar. But in the end, they decided not to kill it, and they decided to just go for the tower instead. Wise decision. We can see the elixir, the AP elixir of sorcery coming out for the Karma here, helping her deal a bit more damage to these towers because she has neither AP nor AD, and so her auto attacks won't be doing an awful lot. But that Ryze wave clear, also half health to the Karma here. That's very big damage coming out of this Ryze, and he has in fact actually finished all 3 of his items, so we should be looking to see Ryze perhaps pop off in this fight as a last resort for Meltdown here. But this tower just goes down way too quickly. Ryze ult's actually coming in. The Ashe ult stopped by the Malzahar passive spell shield, and he just gets the suppression straight onto the Galio. Meanwhile, Rumble's in the backline, but so's the Ryze, and the Ryze just goes down to the Draven as expected, and Rumble's just going for an end here. He's just on the Nexus towers right now. NLY just trying to keep him, stop the ports, trick 2G on Rumble trying to backdoor here at the moment. Rengar going in, trying to hold up these members, and Rumble coming in for a cheeky few final kills, and those people, Meltdown, are just absolutely blowing up right now. And we can see it looks like what happens to be the game end here for the time being. It looks like NLY coming out with a very, very dominant game 1 in this best of 3. Okie dokie, we are ready to get back into the second game of the semi-finals of the Monash ESM E-League Semester 1 Tournament, Division 2. Now, last game we saw NLY come out with a slow yet commanding victory over Meltdown, and we'll have to see what Meltdown does in reply to last game. Now we can see the Shen ban coming out from NLY yet again, Gangplank ban from Meltdown, same as before. However, there should be some switch-ups coming in soon, potentially. Another Fizz ban coming out. NLY just looks like they're sticking with what worked in this one, perhaps going for the same comp. However, that is not going to happen as the Rumble ban does come out. Such a massive pick for NLY in the previous game, and looks like Meltdown are finally understanding the true strength of NLY, that being their top laner. We can see another ban coming in. Perhaps it is the same ban as previously. Yep, Lulu coming in. I believe Meltdown banned Lulu last game, but nonetheless still a carryover ban from the previous game. Lulu, of course, very hotly contested pick, especially in these 5-man games, these team games. Lulu showing her strengths a lot when the team has a lot of coordination. And as we await the final ban, which is in fact Ivern, Meltdown understanding here that Ivern is definitely a hotly contested pick, first pick potential worthy, which is what they did in the previous game. However, they left the Maokai open and NLY pick it up straight up. Now, Maokai has actually been seeing a bit of play in the support role, and nonetheless, their support is actually the one with the champ locked in right now. We are expecting to see an AP version of Maokai coming out. He does absolutely massive damage. We can see the Draven pick coming in again for Lamb is Pro. Did semi-okay in the last game. He did give up a lot of early game kills, but perhaps he's looking to redeem himself and hopefully get Tyler 1 to notice him, but we never know. But we can see the side of Meltdown has gone for Gragas and Karma, taking the Karma away, much like NLY did in the previous game. Perhaps that could be the deciding factor. Meltdown may be able to come back, get another kill and keep this series going to 3 games. Who knows? Now we can just see that NLY are looking to pick their jungler at the moment, or perhaps locking in a mid laner or a top laner for their respective Okie dokie. Looks like my mic is working now, I think. It looks like we're having that same freeze issue we had last game. But yeah, we managed to get into game. Mic was not working just now, only just managed to fix it. The classic NLY coming through with the pause at the beginning of the game, as is the NLY special. I think in this time I might see if I can fix up the window for myself. I think it looks just fine for everyone else. At least that's what the preview's telling me. Just make it full screen. I don't know how that's gonna... turn out. Okay, it looks like it's just fine. Let's see. Okie dokie, so now that that's out of the way, we won't have trolls coming in and trying to ruin the experience. As we wait for this pause to come out, see if we can just set up some good stuffs. Perhaps reorder these lads so they're in proper positions for good comparison. Yep, there we go. Everything seems to be in order. And now we just await the pause. So both teams very similar to the previous game in terms of their team comps. Meltdown going for that sort of more late game-ish focus with the Graves and the Ashe, and looking more towards those team fights with the Zilean being able to be very effective with his stun and his revive, which are about the only two things in his kit. And NLY coming out with another disgusting early game team comp, even worse, even more frustrating to play against than previously, with the Elise Renekton definitely looking to make the Gragas' life absolute hell. And we can see a reconnect actually does come in. If I just fix this up again so that it's... there we go. Should be good for everyone now. And now the players are actually getting into the game. Believe it or not, it does actually happen. NLY can actually start games. We didn't think it was possible. They've done it only a couple of times before. And we can see flashing their masteries for the cam here, doing it for YouTube, or for their teammates to say, nah guys, I actually am good at this champ. I didn't just first time in the tournament. But these guys have been playing together for an awfully long time. They definitely know each other's strengths. And we can see Renekton doing a bit of a troll coming out here. Karma Q doesn't actually quite land. Perhaps they're going for a cheeky lane swap. We can see the bottom lane of NLY on the top side. And we can actually see Renekton hovering bottom side. And we don't know whether they'll actually make the switch or not, or whether they'll just switch around in the end and it's a bit of a bait. But they did get a bit of an invade going, so they will know that Graves is starting at his Raptors. And they may actually see where Graves goes after that, whether it's to his red, to his blue, or so on, giving a lot of information over to NLY in this one.
Minions have spawned.
And we can actually see Graves does start at his Raptors. Zilean Bomb helping him out a lot. Graves has really good clear in this early game. We can see a bit of a game pausing. I don't know what's going on with that. And this is really interesting stuff here. That is really interesting start coming out of NLY. They do actually leash the red buff in addition to giving the Raptors over to the Elise, giving Elise a very strong advantage, at least for this beginning of the game. And Graves does head on over to his Raptors, but I'm not sure whether it was spotted out by NLY
Sleeping
or not.
Blade said I love dick in my ass.
Okie dokie, so enough of that one. We got some trolls trying to ruin the experience here. and I won't have any of it. May have to redact some of this stuff from the official upload, but you streams get to see it in the flesh, unfortunately. But yeah, we can see just a bit of shenanigans going on in the early game. Up in top side, you can see Renekton and Elise are inside the red buff jungle on top side. Bit of trade coming out in the mid lane, maybe a bit more active compared to the previous game in the mid lane, but we'll have to see how that goes. And Ashe getting a bit of a CS lead early on, and we can see the bot lane matchup already in favour of the Ashe here. Just Karma Ashe providing a lot of pressure, and I guess the Maokai being a melee support, of course, just can't keep up, so it's kind of like a 1v2 lane in that respect. Now I can see TSM going in for a trade. It looked like it was advantageous for him in the beginning, but minion damage and a timely body slam just doing a lot for it, and nice body, not body block, nice dodge coming out of Gragas here, prevents the gank and gets at least quite low. So we can see Meltdown top laner, he knows he's getting camped, so he's doing his best to avoid it, and he's doing a pretty solid job so far. However, he is down a little bit in CS, as is Zilean here in this mid lane, and we can see some trades coming out of Karan here, throwing down his wall along with the Q. Zilean trying to reply with a double bomb, only manages to land one, and both mid laners basically just depleting their mana supply for what is essentially just irrelevant damage at this point. Now we can see Elise looking like she's coming in mid for a gank onto the Zilean here. Zilean does have flash, however, so he should be able to get out of this one, and as we see the Spectate come in, and Zilean has no mana, does expend the flash to get out as expected, and Elise able to get that one basically for free. Now we can see in the bot lane, the CS advantage for this Ashe is actually ridiculous at this point. Up over 15 CS at just 5 minutes. It's incredible to see, but it is made up for in part by the mid laner and top laner of NLY, who both have about 10 CS leads over their opponents, and Elise coming in for another reply gank and Zilean with the step back, but unfortunately it was not enough, and first blood coming out for NLY here, going over to the Elise. We can see just a bit of farm going on other parts of the map, so it looks like mid lane might be a little bit more active in this game. So we can see teleport coming out of Zilean, just getting him back to lane, as is expected in the early game for champions with TP. They get behind, they TP back to lane to sort of help mitigate any disadvantage that they received in lane. Can see just a bit of spells coming out, and just a 20 CS lead in the bot lane for this Ashe. Obviously, Lamb's Pro must be tilted from the kills last game. He's playing extremely safe and just not getting anything out of this, and top lane, very active as it was before, but Gragas is able to keep up with the Renekton in damage. Really unexpected. Perhaps even getting ahead on this one. TSM not doing as well as I'd expected to, especially out of the matchup. Looks like Draven perhaps getting a bit more farm at this point, but Graves does come down for a little bit of pressure, applying, just standing there, taking a ward and then running away, but at least looks like she's coming in for a lane gank, and it may or may not actually be spotted out by the side of Meltdown here, so this could potentially be a huge fight happening out bot. But there is a ward in the tower, the red side bush in the bot lane here, so at least will be spotted out when she goes for that. And Graves is sitting mid, perhaps trying to get something down onto the Anivia. And in top lane, a few more trades happening. Renekton getting ahead in this one again, half health and almost for free. Here comes the trade, the gank coming in, but unable to make anything happen. Meltdown are in this one, and Graves just backs off, perhaps just trying to soak up some more farm at this point. Now we can see Meltdown going really aggressive. Draven's got no mana and putting down a lot of stuff, but the Ignite coming out onto the Karma. This is a complete reversal of what happened last game. Last game it was Ashe flashing forward for kills onto Draven, but now it's NLY flashing forward for kills into the bot lane, and that's two downed members of Meltdown here. NLY getting off to a great early game start, just as they did in the previous game. Elise definitely playing a big part in that, and Karan trying to get some damage down in the mid lane, but the wall is just a little bit shy of where it needs to be, and NOI going for the early Drake. This early Drake uncontested by any members of Meltdown at this point. It is a Mountain Drake, another tower killer. Much like last game's Drakes, giving NOI a huge advantage in these later game objectives, towers, barons, you name it. And we can see TSM Pie perhaps overextending a little bit here, and he's just... Graves here just trying to keep Renekton in while the Graves is inbound, and he's trying to run away for a little bit of a bait. Gets the Renekton's E, but the flash as well, and Renekton able to get away without dying. We can see just a little bit of jungle shenanigans going on right here, and a little bit of downtime while the bot laners recall, mid laners recall. Everyone's recalling at this point in the game except for the junglers, and they're just farming. So we can see a little bit of a roam from the Meltdown support into the mid lane. Then we just see a little bit more farming coming out. And really just a little bit of a huge slowdown, big change of pace here. So everything's really sort of slowing down. Karan going aggressive on Anivia in the mid lane here. TSM by coming in with the Renekton, getting a bit of damage down onto the Gragas, and managed to half health him with only a tower shot in reply. Not looking good for the Gragas here, as especially with the CS lead that Renekton's been able to get up here, 75 to 51. That is a 25 minion difference at this point in the game, and it's also shared by the mid laner here. Karan up almost 20 CS on, and the Ashe ult comes out, but the Maokai ult's used in reply, getting some good roots down, but it's not enough to keep Draven alive, and Draven just returning back to the feed like he was in the previous game. Maybe he can turn it around. He was able to actually cash in early, so you know, perhaps it won't be as bad as the previous game, but hopefully he is able to bounce back. Looks like they're really wailing on him hard. They probably OP.GG'd him and was like, nah, he's the highest rank on their team. We gotta camp him. Who knows? Maybe that's the game plan. I don't know. That's the game plan of my teams. But yeah, maybe it's different for these guys. Maybe they put a bit more thought into it, and maybe they know Lamb's Pro is definitely good. And the Draven ult comes by, it actually manages to get that reply kill, just nicked him by the edge, and bit of damage coming out from Karan here in the mid lane on the Anivia, but he's unable to get anything done, and at least Cocoon lands onto a minion. Karan going a bit aggressive here, he's a bit low HP, but Zillionot comes out, keeps the Gragas alive, or Graves, sorry, alive, and a bit more damage coming out, and just barely not enough, but it looks like at least might be going down here, but the repel comes out, and there's lots of stuff going on here. We can see Maokai came up for a bit of support as well, the Karma was there, and in the end, nothing happens. And then there's a trade in the top lane here. Renekton trying to get some reply damage onto the Gragas, and he's winning this fight pretty well, managing to get Gragas down to half HP, but Gragas is able to return a fair amount of the damage, a bit more than you'd expect from any Renekton early game matchup. We can see Gragas might actually be winning this one. Any well-timed ult. Renekton ult actually comes down and comes in for the tower dive, and he's just too quick for the Gragas to reply, and that's a tower dive solo kill for TSM Pie here. And also a 35 CS advantage. So we can see ult comes out from the Ashe here. Looks like there's another bottom lane skirmish. It looks like Draven will be going down again. A lot of damage coming out from here. And at this point, you just got to be wondering how tilted must Lamb's Pro be at this point in the game. And Maokai ult does a lot to save his own life, as first tower goes down to TSM Pie. Renekton absolutely crazy split pusher in this early game. And as we can see, as we all know, that TSM Pie does a lot for NOI, especially in their wins, and he's definitely keeping those stats in his favour here with the big damage per minute and lots of kills as well. Honestly, NOI just playing exactly how they have in group stages, and it's paying out for them. We can see another Death Dance rush onto the Draven here. Not sure how effective it was last game. Didn't prevent him from dying all that much, but... And we can see Elise going in onto the Gragas here, but Gragas is just too tanky, and he's unable to get the kill. we can see just a little bit of roaming here, a little bit of ward clearing out from the jungle while things slow down just a little bit. We should expect some plays to come out reasonably soon. Rift Herald is up and available, and NOI ping bot lane tower, so that seems like that's going to be their next focus for the next couple of minutes. They may perhaps get jungle attention down there, they might get a Renekton TP. Who knows what we'll see. The TP from the Renekton is actually almost up. It will be up within the next minute. And we can see Draven starting to close a bit of that CS lead that Ash was able to get, and looks like there's a bit of a dive coming on, a bit of a roam coming out of the Maokai here, coming around from behind, and Lammus Pro able to get a return kill onto the Ashe, and Anivia's also down there along with Graves, and it looks like there's a bit of a skirmish going on here. Meltdown able to get a bit of a return kill here, but Graves is going to go down as well, and looks like another bad trade for Meltdown, and it looks like it's not even over yet. Karma might also go down here. Double kill for Karan, and Zillion just a little bit too late to get anything done. And at the same time, Maokai, we told you the damage was big out of this guy, and just like a Teemo shroom hitting you when you're walking through your own jungle, Gragas goes down to a Maokai sapling in his own jungle. Karan really low here. He does have passive up, so he doesn't have too much to worry about, but it would suck if you lost it just to something as simple as a bit of minion damage for being a bit too greedy, wouldn't it? And at the same time, TSM I'm a Cutie Pie absolutely destroying these towers in the top lane. Split pushing like mad. There's no answer for it. He's managed to get that tower down to a quarter. It's only 14 minutes into the game. Like, geez, they have families. But we can see just a cheeky red buff being taken by NS Young here down on this Elise. We can see some more vision being cleared by Meltdown here. They don't want NOI peeking into their jungle. Bit of peeping toms. They want to keep the blind shut on this one, and NOI going for the second Drake of the game. It is an Ocean, will help them survive, help them siege and whatnot. It'll definitely help the split pusher Renekton here. He can go and get some damage, he can back off. He doesn't have to recall, he just sits there, gets those bonus regens, and then just keeps splitting. And it looks like he might potentially be biting off more than he can chew, but maybe instead it's Zillion who's biting off more than he can chew, and it looks like there's a collapse from the Gragas as well. It looks like this is a 2v1 at the moment, or 3v1, but Karan comes in, and Anivia doing a lot of damage. There's nothing that the Karma can do with the wall in the way, but the timely ult from Gragas cancels the glacial, I would say Shroud, it's not Shroud. Glacial Storm, that's it. And the Ashe ult comes out, and it looks like Maokai is actually going down on this one, but Elise is here and gets the return kill onto the Ashe, and meanwhile the TP comes out from the Gragas, but he does finish off the TP, in fact, but there's no play able to be made, and we can see Anivia coming around on the backside. We don't know whether this will turn into a huge fight or not, but one thing is for certain, there will be blood. And it looks like Graves is the first victim of this fight, this bloodbath. Gragas flashing in to try and get something down onto the Draven, but little does he know he's flashing into a fully charged Anivia ult, and that just does so much damage. And potentially NOI could get a tower out of this, but they decide to back off, seeing the Zillion and the Karma, and two of them being very low health, but Karan comes in, he misses everything except for the targeted ability, and looks like he gets a flash out of Karma still with the timely wall, and the Renekton pressure, and it looks like they're just going to rotate round to mid and see what they can do there. We can see Maokai planning another little happy surprise for any member of Meltdown who decides to go in their own jungle, and this game definitely showing a bit of tilt out of Meltdown here. It looks like they're just sort of rolling over a little bit, and unlike last game, they put up a bit of a fight, but this time it just seems a little bit more snowbally in NOI's favour here. And really at this point, Meltdown just have to try and stall as best as they can, but it's honestly really hard. They wave clear out of Ashe is only so good, and Zillion, while he does have reasonably good wave clear, still has one chunk of damage that gets done once, and if minions aren't killed at that point, then it does become a little bit difficult. But other than that, it might be a bit difficult for Meltdown to actually stall out this game. Now we can see another pause. TSM I'm a Cutie Pie obviously leaving the game once more. He's obviously just switching out. He's calling in Parbu. He's like, look, well, the actual TSM I'm a Cutie Pie is coming in. He's like, look, Parbu, dude, I want to take this one. I actually want to play the rest of this game out. Clearly, that's what's going on here. Not actually, it's a bit of a bamboozle, but hey, it's a bit of something to pass the time. But yeah, another classic NOY pause. Clearly the hotspot's not working enough. He might be switching to another phone. Maybe it's his disposable cell that he uses for his drug calls. Who knows? Maybe not. But if we look at it, we see that in the top lane, it is an absolutely massive advantage. There is potential, definitely potential for a Flame Horizon to come out of this game. Renekton up almost 70 CS over this Gragas, absolutely obliterating him in lane. Then we can see in the mid lane a 20 CS advantage for Anivia here, and about even CS out of the Ashe and Draven. So Draven definitely been able to make up the disadvantage he had in the early game. So we can see a little bit of a trade coming out, but Gragas, you don't know, man. You're 2 levels down. You can't fight this one, especially since you rushed a Spectre's Cowl against a Renekton. This guy does all physical damage. A Spectre's Cowl is not going to do much for you, and it looks like TSM Mama Cutie Pie might actually be able to get a 1v2 down onto these guys, but the Zillion ult comes down, but TSM Mama Cutie Pie completely disrespecting, actually popping the Zillion ult, giving Gragas some free HP. But the Maokai ult comes in and roots a lot of them, but TSM Mama Cutie Pie escapes by the skin of his teeth on that one, with the Graves ult coming through, almost eliminating him. And at the same time, we see blue being passed over to Anivia, and some more happy little surprises being planted in the red side jungle. Bot lane is just trading a bit of damage down onto each other, but Draven's got a death stance. He can heal up that for days. And TSM Mama Cutie Pie coming around for a bit of a catch, but little does he know that there's actually a Graves there, and he realizes just in time, and he's able to dash away. So we can see the ADC 1v1 going on here, and of course, if you don't reply with damage here, you're going to lose that trade, clearly. And it looks like NOI trying to steal away the red buff here. We can see just a little bit of a slowdown in the early game here. It looks like NOI are going for this Rift Herald here. And it looks like they will be able to get it. It is pretty easy to take down, and there's not really any reply coming out of Meltdown here. They're all a bit over the place. Karma coming in, but it's just a little bit too late. And it looks like Elisa's going to be picking that one up. What lane will they choose to take it to? My bets are on mid, especially seeing as though 3 of them looks like they're heading over there now. And there's a bot lane trade going down here, but who's going to win? Is Draven going to be able to pull it out with his Death Stance? And yes, he is. And the flash coming out from TSM Mama Cutie Pie trying to get in, but in the end, it's all for naught. However, Death Stance definitely defying some death here. I take it back. Death Stance Draven is legit. I've been proven wrong, Sir Lamb is pro. And when you can see bot lane tower looks like it's going to be going down. TSM Mama Cutie Pie just does way too much damage to these towers. It's not really fair, but the Mountain Drake does come into it. And NOI just taking Drakes for days. As soon as they're up, they're down. And we can see another Drake's coming up in a minute. Baron coming up in about 10 seconds. I don't think that's going to be a priority for anyone for the time being. And this Drake, depending on what it is, could be absolutely crucial for NOI being able to close this game out. So we can see a trade coming out in the mid lane. It looks like it's going to be turning into a big fight. Zillion has to pop the ult on himself, but Meltdown trying to come in, see if there's a bit of a reply, and they managed to take down TSM Mama Cutie Pie, but in return, both top laners are down at the moment, and NOI looking to take this a bit further. Maokai flash roots in, but the flash is returned from the Graves here, and is that a flash forward from Draven? I think it is, and lots of flashes expended in that fight. And NOI just looking to turn around and take the Drake while the members of Meltdown just decide to turn onto the Drake. That's another Mountain Drake. A second Mountain Drake is going to do absolute wonders for NOI here. Lots more objective damage, which they already have a lot of. And Hawkshot coming in just in time to see that Drake die and its corpse fall into the ground. Looks like NOI are looking to group a bit bot side, perhaps get that bot lane tower, and looks like they have actually used the Rift Herald for this one, so that tower will most likely be going down. The damage coming out of that buff is absolutely ridiculous. I think that thing like half health towers with one hit, yeah, pretty much. That was exactly half health right there, and NOI just going to come in and finish that one off in absolute no time. Rift Herald plus 2 Mountain Drakes equals 0 towers for anyone on Meltdown. At the same time, we can see TSM1 Cutie Pie coming out of base, perhaps going down mid, and it looks like NOI are also going to rotate round to that. So it looks like they're trying to get a little bit of a twofer out of this one, trying to knock down 2 of the inner towers. And keep in mind, this is only 22 minutes, and these towers are going down way more quickly than they did in the previous game. As I said in the beginning, that it's best of 3. When you lose the first game, it can be incredibly tilting, because you're 1 game away from loss, whereas it's a bit more forgiving for the person who wins this first game, and it looks pretty apparent at this point. But the Ashot comes in, and they're showing that they are not down yet, and a lot of ults coming out, a lot of unnecessary ults coming out of here, like that Graves ult, but they do in fact get that kill in the end. And it looks like they're going to collapse 2 men onto TSM Cutie Pie here, who's just diving the tower, but he just kills it, and there's nothing Meltdown can do at this point. TSM Cutie Pie looking like he can potentially 1v2, but there's a Karma coming in, a third source of damage, heals and shields, and who knows? The Renekton doing what he can, but it looks like he's just going to be going down here, and it looks like he bit off a little bit more than he could chew. Karan going in for a little bit more of an aggressive play, but unfortunately the wall does not land on the right side of the enemies of MLT, so he's unable to get anything out of that one. But NLY still 2-man pushing down this mid lane, see if they can get anything done. It seems unlikely that they can, especially with members of Meltdown coming in, but it looks like the members of NOI are actually pinging Baron. It looks like they're going to take a really early Baron on this one, 24-minute potentially, and they've actually started it up, and there is no vision of this Baron for MLT here. They have no idea what's going on. In fact, they have their 2 carries recalling, and this has just been completely snuck under the noses. This is done under the noses of the Meltdown members here, and that's a free Baron right now. And with that, NOI are probably going to look to close this game out very soon. But what can Meltdown do for this? I mean, it's really hard at this point. The wave clear aspect of it, wave clear already was reasonably shaky, but with Baron empowered minions, it's going to be even harder. All they can do is just hope for a pick onto the Elise or perhaps the Draven, and hope that that's enough damage removed from the fight that they can perhaps win the 5v4, but I'm not sure if that's even possible at this point. Very unlikely at the very least. We'll have to see how Meltdown can try to get back into this game. At this point, the only fight that we can imagine going in favour of Meltdown is really potentially Ashe versus Draven, but even at this point, it's a bit of a toss-up. Last fight, it was very slightly in the favour of the Draven here, so we can probably assume that after a few more items, a bit of crit onto this Draven, that even then, that's a bit unlikely. So at this point, it's all about the 5v5 and whether MLT can pull off the comeback. And Renekton just coming in, he's still doing a ton of damage as Renektons do, but at this point in the game, no one else on Meltdown has enough damage to really deal with him. They have to send 3 people up, and if you're a team and you have to send 3 people up just to kill 1 person, it really does not bode well for you as a team. We can actually see a bit of trades coming out from the Anivia here, walling off a little bit to keep the members of Meltdown away while they take this tower with Baron and Power minions, but the Ashe ult does land onto the Draven. It looks like he's probably going to be going down, but Maokai ult comes out, stuns a ton of them, and that Anivia ult doing a lot of damage to Karma here. Ashe having to flash away, and Renekton coming in on the backside, but he's bitten off a bit more than he can chew. He's definitely a bit overextended here. The rest of the team is nowhere to be found, and at this time the tower is able to be defended. If there's one thing Meltdown can do effectively, it is stop teams from taking their towers. If that's one thing we've learned from this series. But unfortunately, as I say that, they do actually lose the tower. Trying to prove me wrong, I see. And it looks like they're trying to get a bit of a reply. They get the early flash out of Anivia here, and the Zillion stun coming in allows them to land a kill onto the Maokai and perhaps give them a little bit more of a chance. But they are at the moment down 10,500 gold at 26 minutes, which is an incredible feat by NOI here. And it's just really unfortunate for Meltdown. They showed so much promise in the first game, and they were unable to make it to the late game, and they decided to go for the same thing here, and it seems like the same thing's happening, just a little bit worse. And we can see this Maokai damage coming out onto the Graves here, almost half healthing him with just a single sapling. And we can see why it was definitely banned in the first game and why NOI was so eager to pick it in this game. See, at least giving a bit of a leash over to the Draven here. And we can see, still, Baron recall on the Elise here. That should be running out in a matter of moments. And we can see everything's just sort of starting to settle a little bit. We'll expect to see NOI group up at some point soon for this mid tower. Perhaps wait for this next Drake to spawn, take that, then go mid and try to force a fight. At least that's what the plan is, but it seems like Meltdown are actually the ones trying to force a fight here, by trying to get a pick onto Karam, but he manages to wall off the Karma, stopping the stun from coming through. Maokai out comes up, manages to root the Karma, but there's no follow-up here. It was just a bit of a warding off kind of ultimate, and more sapling damage coming out from that grave onto that Graves. Like, that's a Maokai support, ladies and gentlemen. That is a support Maokai. Last kind of champion you'd expect to be seeing damage, but Riot have gone and done what they do best and give Tanks a lot of damage. And now we can see NOI taking that Air Drake, which will give him a bit more speed. It'll give him some rotation, which is definitely something they need, but it's not as effective considering that all that is left to take is inhib towers, which are very close anyway. So we can see a bit of pings coming down from NOI onto Meltdown's base, and I guess they're just looking to try and find an opening. If anything, I'd suggest maybe a collapse onto that Gragas in the mid lane, and it looks like that is exactly what they're going for here, and that is not where he parked his car. The Gragas ult goes wide. Maokai just into the wall already. You can't hit someone into a wall if they're already in the wall. Gragas just playing a bit of mind games, trying to play the bit of the runaway game, getting a bit of an escape off. NOI unable to secure the kill. Gragas able to get out alive, but NOI looks like they're just going to push down this fight while they know it's a 4v5. But looks like they're not able to push quick enough because Gragas is back in base and he will be coming out with home guards. And Evia will sort of blocking off the minions a bit, doing a bit of bit more harm than good, and that is definitely a rapid fire onto that Draven there. I didn't even have to look down, but it's just confirmed right now, and looks like Graves is going to be going down in the top lane after a 3v1 collapse from NOI, and is that the pick NOI needed to crack the base open? Who knows, but Meltdown are trying to reply with their own. And it looks like they do manage to kill Lamb Pro here, and they might actually be able to grab the Anivia as well, but Maokai comes through for a bit of a save, but Elise and Renekton are coming in on the backside, and this is potentially a really bad fight for Meltdown. It's all going wrong. The wall comes out just in time. Gragas gets the Zillion ult, and he manages to stay alive, and TSM on McCutie Pie actually goes down in this one. Meltdown able to keep the game going for just a little bit longer. Now you can see NLY trying to escape this one. They know that they definitely overstayed their welcome on that one, and they're just trying to get back, get a bit of a reset, wait for the death timers, and then go at it once more. Meanwhile, Meltdown here just trying to get what they can, a few minions, trying to potentially scale back into the game. At this point, there's definitely room for Meltdown to stage a comeback, because this game is slowing down a lot like it did last game. And who knows, maybe Meltdown can pull off the amazing comeback victory and take this to a third game. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens, how NOI react to this minor setback, and how Meltdown capitalise on the mistakes, the future mistakes that NOI continue to make. We can see a ping coming out from NOI onto the Baron. They definitely want this next Baron. It is up in a few minutes, and just as they say that, a couple of wards coming out from Meltdown here, trying to get some vision onto that Baron. They don't want it to be snuck 2 games in a row. That would be absolutely devastating and humiliating for them. And it looks like they're getting Karma to place a few wards down. And, you know, NOI, they're just pinging this thing. They clearly want to go for it sometime soon. And that's a lot of damage coming out from the Anivia. Anivia definitely starting to scale up here. Has the Rod of Ages completed. Seraph's Embrace fully stacked. And decided to grab a Luden's Echo as his third item. So he's definitely going to be doing a lot of burst damage at this stage of the game. And we can see Zillion actually taking a recall. And at the same time, NLY might actually be starting up this Baron. But it looks like they're just dodging around it, doing a little bit of a Baron dance, and the Karma coming in with a bit of poke damage down under them to try and keep them away. Meanwhile, Renekton and Gragas having a little bit of a pushing game down in the bot. And Zilean trying to come in with a cheeky double bomb, but is unable to land the stun. And it'll be interesting to see how this fight pans out. Renekton is 2 levels above Gragas at this point, and NOI have decided to actually start the Baron. This time, there is in fact vision for NOI, however, for Meltdown, however, NOI do back off. And Renekton, he's just free to push in this bot wave, like, NOI just did this perfectly. Like, Renekton, he's down in bottom lane, he's taking this inhib tower, and as Zilean goes to recall to protect it, NOI just comes in and starts the Baron again. And at this point, NOI have just baited and outsmarted at this point. And the Maokai ult comes through to sort of keep the enemy team away from a potential steal, and NOI able to take their second Baron with ease. And Ashe, oh no, way too far forward, and Draven able to cash in for the 5th time this game on that incredibly misplayed overstep from the Ashe. And it looks like NOI coming in to take in this first inhib tower of the game, and potentially followed up with the first inhib of the game. TSM Armor Cutie Pie on his Renekton trying to get some stuff done, and the Gragas ult comes out to try and keep the players away from the tower, but it's just not enough. And while Renekton's just busy holding them off 1v4, the rest of the team's just taking this inhib for free. And it looks like the team is going to back off after taking that inhib, playing the slow game, playing the secure game, trying not to give anything up, especially as a 5th dragon spawning in just 35 seconds. And it'll be interesting to see if we do actually get an Infernal Drake this series. If not, that is absolutely incredible. Incredibly rare for there to be 0 Infernal Drakes over the course of 10 drags in 2 games. Now, we can see that NOI are definitely moving straight towards this Drake. They want to knock that down as soon as possible, and then they may possibly look to group down bot and see what they can get done. Meanwhile, Renekton heading towards topside, potentially going for a 1-4 split with the Baron empowered minions and being able to get a really solid push off. And it is in fact actually a Mountain Drake that spawns, so that's going to be 3 Mountain Drakes there. And if NOI are able to touch these towers, they're just going to go down incredibly quickly. And we've had no Infernals in 10 dragons. That is absolutely crazy stuff. And Karan cheekily using that blast cone for no one, trying to make sure nothing can happen. And the wall just stops Gragas from being able to do anything. And it's looking like he's just going to go straight down as soon as he respawns out of that Zilean ult. And Redemption comes out, but Renekton's going in. And this looks like NOI just want to end the game right here. But the field goal cocoon coming out of Elise here, and Ashe, questionable flash forward, pulling a turtle flash, and just gets completely obliterated by the Renekton here. And the BM question mark ping coming out from NOI, but unfortunately for Meltdown, they can't see that. And who knows? Could Meltdown pull it off? At this point, it seems incredibly unlikely. And we can see NOI just looking to group up, perhaps push out top lane, send a few people bot as well, and just get something happening. We can see Karan trying to put a bit of pressure down on this Anivia. Late game Anivia, definitely a very strong champion. Able to put down a lot of damage. He's trying to get a bit of a pick down. He's able to land the stun. The wall stops Graves from moving, but he just dashes over the wall with his quick draw. And nothing comes of it. Meanwhile, the red is stolen by the enemy Elise from Meltdown here, and they're just trying to clear waves here at this point. Super minions flooding in through the mid lane, Renekton pushing in the top lane. Who knows what NOI are trying to do at this point. Looks like they want that top tower, and they're going to do it by killing this Gragas. Draven damage coming through really well. Gragas just does not have enough resist to nullify this Draven's damage here at this point in the game. And the Ashe ult comes out, trying to get a pick onto the Elise, but the repel comes out. He comes down straight into a Zilean stun. Very well planned. Gragas ult coming in for the kill secure. But on the bot side, Anivia is just pushing down this tower. Zilean reacts, but it might just be a little bit too late. The tower does, in fact, go down. And Gragas coming in with the flash body slam, but there's no follow-up, no ult, and the Renekton just goes in and completely annihilates the Ashe here. And looks like they're looking for more. They might just decide to go for this tower, or they go for the kills. Draven just sitting on the edge of this tower here, just getting a lot of kills down, and that's a triple kill for the Renekton. And in the bottom, Zillion is versing the Anivi here and potentially might lose, but maybe not his life, but definitely the inhib and the towers. And it looks like what is in a very much stronger looking game in this one. NOI may be able to take the game out at this point. NOI completing this game in 36 minutes, completing the clean 2-0 sweep, allowing me to go to bed and me to save my voice. Thank you guys, and we'll see you next week in the finals.